Bones. Where do I even start with Bones? I could start off by saying he's an absolute pioneer in the SoundCloud, trap metal, and emo rap genres, or maybe I could talk about how he's influenced and inspired countless of your favorite artists, from Lil Peep to Lil Tracy to Juice WRLD or any other artist who uses the emo rap genre to portray their feelings in music. He meshed genres, he created genres, he changed music, he innovated, he did it all. And at the end of the day, it's not even really about Bones the person, it's more about the art that he created, and as an artist, that's what it should all be about. And he definitely likes to create because he has almost 80 albums over a 13-year span, which is just an insane output for any artist. So of course, there's absolutely no way that I could cover his entire catalog in this one video, so I'm going to be treating this as more of just what Bones made that kind of influenced the wave, some of his early life, and just overall kind of a beginner's guide to Bones with a little bit more information spliced in there. So I hope you guys enjoy. Without further ado, let's look at the life of Bones. Elmo Kennedy O'Connor was born in Marin County, California. His mother and father were both designers, with his mother focusing more on clothes and his father more on web design. Although that's not all his father ever did, because when he was younger, he also did photography for bands like Blue Oyster Cult, actually meeting Bones' mother at one of these concerts because she was a costume designer for the band. And his grandfather on his mother's side was also an actor, so I guess you could say creativity ran deep in the bloodstream. He's also responsible for bringing Bones to the Playboy Mansion at the age of 6. The family would never stay put for long, moving all across the country throughout Bones' childhood, eventually landing in Michigan at the age of 9. And this is where the internet would get their first view of Bones, when he started posting his ECD backyard wrestling videos, showcasing some jackass-like stunts where him and his buddy Dallas would throw each other off roofs and through tables. This ended pretty quickly after his parents caught them. All this moving around the country made it hard for Bones to make friends in person, and oftentimes his school days were filled with rampant bullying and at one point an ass beating. Not to mention Howell really wasn't the most stimulating place for a creative mind. However, there was one kid who was a good friend of Bones throughout his entire career, named David Pickett. Even after he moved to Minnesota for a couple years, they stayed in contact and he kept supporting his music. Unfortunately, the only way to talk to him was through the internet, so this led Bones to spend a lot of his time on the internet creating music and talking to friends. He started to create his own music at the age of 9 when his dad bought him his first ever computer. He downloaded beats off of SoundClick and used the computer's built-in microphone to create his earliest music. At the time, his sound was heavily inspired by early Kid Rock and Master P. Of course, most of this was never released, and with the tools he had at his disposal, we can speculate it probably wasn't very good. He held on to all of his music until around 2010, when he began uploading tracks to a Tumblr account and a MySpace page called AA Experience, even recording home movie-style music videos on his father's tape recorder. He originally rapped under his own name, Elmo, before switching his name to Elmo the Kid, and eventually, once he joined YouTube, he changed his name to The Kid, with an @ sign in it, which is the name he used until about the age of 18, when he woke up one day and decided he didn't feel like a kid anymore and he had to change his name to initially The Man, but later on Bones, named after the way that he looked, you know, being a really tall, white, kind of skeletal man. He also was a very early adopter of SoundCloud, leading many to call him the original SoundCloud rapper. It's uncertain which track is Bones' first, but the most common ones that people consider are Board of Education, Ear, or Alien. After posting music for the first time, he would get a little bit of buzz on Tumblr, and a couple of the people who noticed this were two people that became very important in his life, Drew the Architect and Vigor. They began talking together through the internet, playing RuneScape, and eventually meeting at an internet cafe, where they would then form Sesh Boys. He'd also meet 3 other important people in his life, Xavier Wolf, Chris Travis, and Eddie Baker, who were all part of Raider Clan at the time before it disbanded. They then went on to create the collective Sesh Hollow Water Boys, which is a combination of 4 other self-created labels from each of the members. Eventually, he ended up back in Michigan, where he would attend high school, but of course, schoolwork was the last thing on his mind, because he was starting to connect with some producers in the area, creating a sort of garage band setup, which proved very successful because by the age of 17, Bones had 14 mixtapes done, and was spending basically all of his time writing and recording music. He decided he wanted to pursue it as a full-time thing and dropped out of school the very same year, moving to LA soon after. He ended up moving in with his older brother Elliot, who also served as his manager. Once arriving there, he would change his name to Bones and continue dropping absurd amounts of music. From 2012 to 2014, Bones dropped another 12 albums, beginning with Young Dumb Fuck. This release is widely considered to be the true beginning of his career. His music output was getting to the point where he couldn't even remember his own lyrics half the time because he was dropping so often. And of course, with pushing out so much music and the experimental sound that he was going with, mixing so many genres into one, a lot of purists were very upset with him. They didn't think that he was making something new and creative. They thought that he was just meshing genres into just noise, which is usually the way it goes when you're a trendsetter. Nobody's going to accept it at first, but after a while, everybody will be rocking with it. That's exactly what would happen, because soon after, that would become the norm in the music industry to mix genres, and in June of 2013, Bones would collab with another SoundCloud legend, Young Lean, to create their song Pixels. The two of them, alongside a couple other artists, were really starting to create the emo rap genre blueprint that we now see today. And weirdly enough, he also shot a music video for Space Ghost Perp's song Bringing in the Funk, showing that all of these early pioneers were connected in one way or another. His first album to catch the attention of the media was Teen Witch, a concept album based off the Columbine School Massacre, once again upsetting many people with his violent lyrics and realistic tone. I mean, after all, isn't rap music created by the devil? Next up came his Garbage album, which built off the hype of Teen Witch and got him noticed by major publications at the time like Fader and Complex Magazine, which was a much bigger deal back in 2014. He also was focusing on his clothing brand and self-made label Sesh Boys, alongside his producer Drip133 and Grief, as well as many others. His parents would also move down to LA the same year to help Bones work on his clothing brand, letting his mother run his warehouse, as after all, she was a fashion designer. That's another cool thing about Bones, basically everybody who's part of his operation is a friend or family member. That same year, him and Grief would form an alternative rock band known as Surrender Dorothy, which to this day has 6 mixtapes released under the title. By the end of 2015, Bones would perform live for the first time at House of Blues. In 2016, he announced a Sesh collaboration album set to release later that year, called You Are All to Blame. As the year went on, Bones continued to drop albums, eventually getting the attention of A$AP Rocky, who remixed his song Dirt, creating the track Canal Street, which peaked at number 4 on the Billboard Bubbling Under chart. They then went on to perform it on Jimmy Kimmel Live, but in classic Bones fashion, he was cut from the broadcast for refusing to censor himself. He was beginning to catch the attention of many labels, but Bones had zero interest in signing, as he never had a boss before and didn't want one now. He also considered labels shady and figured that they'd just fuck him over anyways. Once 2017 rolled around, Bones would release 10 more mixtape, create a second persona called Ricky A Go-Go, releasing 5 tracks under that name, as well as starting another group called Oregon Trail. He also met his now wife Sam Steisko at Disney World, first becoming friends before later becoming romantically involved. 2018 brought with it even more music, as well as Bones' first international tour all through Europe. By 2019, he had his first child, Howl, who he conceived one night during a blackout when him and his girlfriend got bored of playing board games and decided to do something else. A blackout like the power went out, not when he was blackout drunk, just to clarify. Around the same time, he would also do an extremely rare interview with Nardwuar, which was legendary. Bones dropped 4 albums that year, a slow year all things considered, and dropped 6 more in 2020, 5 in 2021, and 2 in 2022. It seems like Bones has slowed down a little bit to focus on raising his child, but his music output is still insane for any other artist standard. Throughout his career, he's also gotten noticed by many other bigger artists, being tweeted at by Kanye, Take K, and Playboi Carti, all showing respect to the underground legend. He's done work with Riff Raff too, but even all of these connections, he's never passed into the mainstream. And honestly, he really doesn't belong there. His music is just too different, experimental, dark, and just can't really fit the average soccer mom's radio listening experience. But just like the Suicide Boys, he's been very successful in his own right. He's really changed entire genres with his music, and there's not enough I could really say about Bones, but there is one thing I want to say now while he's still alive. He is a legend. He's kind of like an MF Doom. He may never be the most popular rapper in the world, but he's your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. He never really got himself in beefs, drama, label disputes, or anything along those lines. There is a few little issues with Sesh Hollow Water Boys between Xavier Wolf and Chris Travis, but in my opinion, that can wait for another video since it doesn't really involve Bones. Instead of all that bullshit, Bones did exactly what he should have and focused on the art, creating music that can't even be defined by a genre and spawning entire subcultures in his wake. I knew Bones would never want it, but I think it's time the underground and music industry as a whole gives him his props. So a big shout out to Bones, and if you ever want to talk to me, dude, I definitely would love to. I know you're way too big and famous for that, but hey man, if you ever want to, I'm here, so let's do an interview. Besides that, thank you guys so much for watching. Join my Discord server, follow me on Instagram, shout out Knife Gang, and most of all, thank you for watching. Talk to you next time, guys. Bye.